Hey, what's going on? Andy here again, author of Folk Springs Eternal. Welcome to video 3 of This Is My Name. So, many of you will remember that scene from the first Lord of the Rings film, where Elrond says, "So be it, you shall be the Fellowship of the Ring." And then Pippin says, "Right, where are we going?" I do like that scene. The point is though, Pippin was actually right. We need a map. We need to plot our journey up the mountain to success. We'll start by picking quite a low peak or target because we're not quite climbing Mount Everest just yet, but we still need to plot our journey so that your dreams of success are broken down into bite-sized, manageable chunks that you can work on and achieve day by day. If we don't plot our journey, then it's very easy for us to get overwhelmed, to just stare up the mountain at the peak thinking, how the hell am I ever going to get up there? There's actually a part in the action plan of Folk Springs Eternal where I talk about that. It goes, when a project is first conceived, its creator often pictures a mountain of labour, hours invested, pitfalls and learning en route to eventual success. Standing at the foot of said mountain, gawping upwards, you may feel very small, indeed overwhelmed. So no, we don't want to start off like that. Remember that I'm your Sherpa or your guide up the mountain. I say let's take the end goal or end goals that you've set for yourself and then reverse engineer the process so that we can break each goal down into the simple steps that you'll need to take in order to get you there. Reverse engineering, in case you're not familiar with the term, basically consists of the following 4 things. Number 1, define your long-term vision. Number 2, define your success figures. Number 3, work backwards from that to the start. And number 4, create your own mini goals accordingly. So let's get started. And as always, don't forget to take notes. So, our point of departure is, of course, base camp. And your base camp is your passion. If you don't know what you want to earn a side income from doing, you obviously won't get started. So don't forget tip number 1 from the previous video on myth busting. Here it is again. So myth number 1 is, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Now that might surprise you. You might think, how can someone not know what they're passionate about? But the fact is, not everybody is lucky, so to speak. Not everybody can identify immediately what they are passionate about. I happen to be lucky. I've always known that music and writing are my 2 strongest passions. They're pursuits where I can completely lose myself in a different world, basically a world of my own invention. Now ask yourself, what are your favourite hobbies? Write them down. Write down things that you enjoy doing, whether you're paid to do them or whether you're not paid to do them. Things that would get you up out of bed and raring to go in the morning. In a similar respect, is there something that completely absorbed you recently? Is there something that you did recently, a certain activity, where you got so into it that you completely lost track of time? If so, that could be your passion. I'm not talking about something that's a mere obligation here. I'm talking about something that you actually enjoyed. So, pause the video at this point if you need to and think about those 2 questions. What hobbies do you have? What things do you enjoy doing, whether paid or not paid? And is there something that recently completely captivated you? If so, as I say, those could be your passions. Once you've written some ideas down, start thinking of ways that you could monetize it, or them, through things like activities or courses, or providing products and services to other people. Write these ideas down and choose the options that you enjoy the most and you think have the most monetization potential. You should be able to write down quite a few ideas, or possibly even ask other people that you know what ideas they would come up with, and you should be able to come up with some ideas of not only what would be enjoyable, but what has some monetization potential as well. Above all, if something feels real to you, then it probably is. It would be very, very rare for you to have a passion or an interest that absolutely no one else is interested in. There's very rarely anything new under the sun. If you're interested in something, there's a good chance that someone else out there is as well, even if it seems very niche. Niches are something that we're going to talk about again later on. I've already talked about the importance of having a niche, but in short and sweet, if you're passionate about something, then it's valid. So basically, you need to write down what passion or passions you've selected. What journey will they take you on? I'll give you one of my own examples. A few years ago, I knew that I was passionate about writing stories, but I needed to turn that into a specific journey with a product at the end of it that I could monetize or sell. That's why I wrote Folk Springs Eternal. I also knew I wanted to make music, but again, I needed a journey for that too. So I did an EP called Even From Here, and I've released a few more songs since then on Spotify. I've also played some shows here and there. These are things that I can monetize and can work towards. So what about you? What journey are you going on? What products or services or courses or similar do you plan to give to the world? Pause the video here and write them down. Okay, once you've done that, the next thing to do is to plot your destination on the map. This is one of the most exciting parts. We know where we're starting from, so now we need to know what our destination is. What does it mean to say, I will be a writer, or I'll be a life coach, or I'll be a nutritional therapist, or whatever it is that you've chosen to do? Here are some specific questions to ask yourself. How much side income do I want to have per week or per month? How many clients will I have per week or per month? Where will I do my work? Will it be at home, virtually, in a communal workspace, in your own workspace, etc.? Will I have anyone helping me or working for me, or will I do it all on my own? Obviously, I don't want to scare you off with too many questions at this point, but write down some paragraphs on what your side income will ideally look like. Paint the picture, because that's what you deserve to do when it comes to your own success and your own future. The clearer you are in your vision, the more clear the journey will be. One particularly useful tip that I have for you here is to make your desired outcomes SMART. This is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Let me give you a real-life example of this. In late 2019, when I started writing Folk Springs Eternal, I had two basic goals. Number one, I want to release Folk Springs Eternal by the end of June 2020. Number two, I want to sell 100 copies of the book within the first month. Let's look at those two goals. Are they SMART? Are they specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound? Let's look at both of them. Are they specific? Yes, they are, because I've said what I want to release, when by, and how many copies I want to sell and when by. Are they measurable? Yes, because I've given a deadline of June 2020 and a number of copies that I would like to sell, being 100. Were they attainable? Well, I thought so at the time, but it turned out that I actually needed a bit longer to write the book, because the book was actually released in August of 2020. And in the end, I managed about 60 copies in the first month, rather than 100. But that's not such a bad thing, because if you have goals that are slightly higher than what you can achieve, it's better to aim high and achieve slightly lower than to aim low and achieve very low to start with. So don't be afraid to set slightly higher goals than what you realistically think you can achieve. That will push you on. Were the goals relevant? Well, obviously, yes, they were relevant, because I say that I'm a writer, the Celtic punk author, so I wanted to write a book about Celtic punk music. That was very relevant, and obviously selling copies to further my own success was relevant too. And last of all, were they time-bound? Of course, yes, they were, because I set June 2020 as the goal or the time by which I wanted to release the book, and I wanted to sell 100 copies within the first 30 days after that. So that is the way to come up with a SMART goal. That was my destination, so what's yours? Think carefully about this, define your long-term vision and success figures that you see for yourself, and then write them down. Alright, so now that we have our destination and our targets plotted, we need to work backwards. This is the reverse engineering part. We know what your desired results are. Now ask yourself, what tasks will get me there? There's a brilliant book that I'd like to mention at this point by a man called Brian Moran. It's called The 12-Week Year, and it suggests doing things that very way, breaking your calendar down into 12-week periods, which is more manageable than looking at an entire year, and it's also more conducive to getting things done, because you can motivate yourself more if you have a 12-week deadline rather than a deadline of 52 weeks. But anyway, as I say, write down key goals that will get you closer. I'll give you another example here. I have a friend who gives guitar lessons. Now, if he wanted to get, say, 10 clients for his guitar teaching practice by a certain date, he would need to do things like this. Social media posts once or twice a day. Messaging people via DMs, direct messages. networking with fellow musicians and teachers, some YouTube content showing what he can play and how he teaches, getting people he knows to spread the word, doing giveaways such as free lessons in exchange for a review of his teaching business, maybe 1 or 2 small Instagram or Facebook ads, etc., etc. So now think about your own destination, your own goal or goals. What tasks do you need to get done in order to get there? Brainstorm all the things that come to mind. Also, if you need to, do some Google research to find recommendations for tasks that apply to you and to your business. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to other people. Ask what they would do and see if you can possibly even hire some trustworthy people to help you as well. Obviously, if people are sarcastic and don't give you serious answers, then you don't need to take those tasks on board. But asking other people for their input is a very good idea for the same reasons as accountability, because you'll have several minds working on it instead of just one, and these people can think of things that you wouldn't necessarily think of yourself. All in all, from this, you should be able to create your own action plan consisting of mini goals. Now, you're free to set this up however you want, but here's one example of how you could do it and how I did it for Folk Springs Eternal. Here's a small portion of the Excel spreadsheet that I set up for getting Folk Springs Eternal ready, promoting it and selling it. This is what got me to 60 copies within the first month, whereas I know other self-published writers who took months to sell even their first copy of the book. We have using your author persona, in other words, talking in terms that your target audience relates to and would understand. So in my case, that was talking about things like Guinness, talking about bands such as the Pogues or Flogging Molly or the Mahones, the sort of language that your audience talks. Posting teaser quotes on places like Instagram or whichever social media platform you feel works well for you and is relevant to you. Posting photos and getting these photos arranged. Introducing your characters or your product. Following and contacting fellow authors or people working in your domain. Considering a marketing service. Again, that's a question of money and a question of how reliable they are, but depending on the time you have and the money you have available, it might be an option available to you. An Instagram or Facebook Live or a repurposed video. Some giveaways, I mentioned that earlier. Again, this is just one way of structuring everything. Find the best structure that works for you. As long as it's organised and as long as your goals are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time-bound, then you can use it. Last of all, here are some quick tips that I want to reiterate for when you're doing all of this. Number 1, put the effort in that you can every day. I know that long-term goals may seem to involve an impossible amount of work, but what's most important is that you move that needle, the needle of progress. Keep chipping away at it day by day and you will get there, just like I did. Many people have great ideas for writing books, but unfortunately the book never gets finished and the book never gets released. I did it. I got Folk Springs Eternal out there and I'm not doing badly with it. Same thing with the EP. Many musicians dream of releasing a collection of songs, but they never fully commit. But just put in that little bit of effort day by day and you'll get over the line. Number 2, I'm going to mention accountability again. There's a whole module dedicated to this later on, but take it from me. Accountability is incredibly valuable and powerful. You won't feel alone in your endeavours if you have people pushing you on, and you'll have passionate, driven people on your side, pushing you towards success. And number 3, again, don't be afraid to ask other people for help. It might be a question of paying them, or it might not be if people will work for free. But surely someone out there can help you and will be willing to help you. Get people on your side, or at the very least ask people for small favours, such as honest feedback on your work. That doesn't cost anything. Remember, we don't have to carry the entire burden of entrepreneurship on our own. Others are there to help, and often are glad to help. So well done on reaching the end of video 3. What I want you to do now is to download the empty mountain map that I'm providing along with this video. You can either get it in the description underneath the video or in the description beneath the video on my website. Fill it in, plotting your own exciting journey up the mountain to your first peak of success. And I also encourage you to type up the most important notes that you've made in neat, as this will really help you to make sense of everything that you've learned in this video 3. And remember, don't forget to file them away neatly somewhere. So let me know what your departure point and destination goal or goals are. Drop me a comment. Other than that, I will see you in the final video to the introductory module of This Is My Name, video 4, where we are going to be looking at dealing with setbacks. Any expedition up any mountain is hard, and setbacks will occur. What's important is that we're fully equipped to know how to overcome them, so that we can deal with them instead of them dealing with us. I'm looking forward to seeing you in video 4.